Hello, this is Dread from Apprentice's Corner, and today's video topic is going to be a video about my Bleed Flurry build that I just leveled up and died with in Hardcore Solo Self-Found. So I am playing some Hardcore Solo Self-Found on stream to keep things kind of spicy, since we're going to be waiting for a patch for a while, and we're waiting for the Vision tournament. So this will be a Hardcore Solo Self-Found build, so be ready for that. So this will be a little bit less refined than normal, but I can still showcase the build in the direction I was going to go with it, and it was rather successful. I just made one key mistake, as you'll see later on. But I got to wave 108 before I died. That's pretty respectable for a build that was building no dodge. I managed to drop a bleeding heart as well, which allowed me to leech from my bleeds, which allowed me to push a little bit farther than normal than I was used to. But yeah, the build overall felt absolutely amazing. I would highly recommend it if you just build it specifically a little bit more different than I was. So Flurry is really strong with bleed, it turns out. Yeah. There's a lot of bleed support on the tree when it comes to Flurry, with the way where you get the 5 extra bleeds per third strike. You get all the bleed effect and damage over time on your bleed tree. I mean, on your Flurry tree, gives you a lot of potential for damage. And I was easily getting up to like 30k ticks already with just being level 64, or I think 65 at this point. But overall, I enjoyed the build. Just everything about it made it feel really good. You know, the smoke cloud, the shift with the shurikens on it. You know, obviously the unspecialized decoy was fine. Like I said, I was not building into dodge, which was my main weakness, and that was my biggest issue. Turns out rogues kind of rely on dodge not to die. Who would have thought, right? With that being said, let's get into the gearing and such, right, shall we? All right, here we are in game with 2021 Who Dis. I thought that was a pretty funny name, but yeah, this is Bleed Flurry. Pretty much what we're doing is we're going for maximum amount of bleed stacks on the target. So I can show you here some a little bit of work here. We're level 67, so don't expect too much. Getting like 30 to 30k ticks about right now. Pretty strong. Very strong bleeds here. This is a BladeDancer as well, but as you can tell, my dodge is very low, and that's why I died in the arena very quickly. This was in Hardcore Solo Self-Found, but now it's Ghost Solo, obviously, right? But I think this build has some merit if you just built it properly, unlike me, which I'll go over in a second here. So we're going to go over skills. We're going to go over Flurry. Flurry, this is the main damage source. We're going to take 3 points into deep strikes. Yes, I have confirmed that this does affect your damage over time ailments procced by Flurry, so this is a 24% more damage for your bleeds. 2 points of travel into precision, 2 points in crescendo. So I did do testing as well. This affects your bleed damage as well, so this is very strong. Of course, we go for shockwave, which gives us the wave, kind of makes it like lacerate from PoE. Very strong, allows us to hit the whole pack, which is one of the reasons why why Flurry is a competent melee skill, while it's a lot more of a mana generator for the bow version, because, you know, obviously you can go melee or bow with this. And of course we have the 2 points into the range, makes the wave go out way farther than normal, kind of like there. It's very strong, as we can kind of like hit a lot of things out of their AoE, right? And of course, 2 points into Vile Tactics. We only care about the Fizz Shred and the Bleed. And of course, 3 points into Lethal Vector, which gives us a more damage multiplier to our bleeds as well. Then of course, 3 points into Reopened Wound, which gives us a bleed effect of 30% as well on top of all this, which is very strong. And of course, 2 points into Relentless for more attack speed. Pretty much this tree is perfect. I don't really think there's a different way of building it for bleed anyways. I mean, you could go into Adrenaline Rush for the blood play, but I don't think this is worth it, as it takes a lot of points to get to shockwave here. That's kind of where, you know, obviously where most of the power of the skill comes from, is from the force wave, right? Because it takes all the melee stuff, and obviously, right? And of course, we have shift here. My shift tree is kind of unoptimized. This point could be going into more kill threshold, but that's about it. So 2 points into Shadow Recuperation for travel. 5 points into sleight of hand so that we get our shuriken shield, as I'll show you later on why I'm doing that. And of course 4 points into swift recovery so we get mana on use, 3 points into momentum so we get the movement speed buff, 1 point into lasting presence so we create a shadow, and then of course 1 point into dancing shadow so that we get a shadow cascade after the shadow, which is very strong, as I'll showcase later why. And of course 1 point into shadow slip for the invulnerability while shifting so that we don't die, right? Then of course we take 1 point into Unseen Strike, which is another melee attack, which counts for bleeds and all that. And of course this will be 2 points here, so we'll have a 10% kill threshold. And then now we have Shadow Cascade here. We're proccing it mainly off of shift, so whenever we shift, we trigger Shadow Cascade. And the main reason why we're utilizing Shadow Cascade is for this note here, Shadow Flourish, which if we at least hit 4 enemies with Shadow Cascade, we get 140% increased physical damage for 4 seconds. That's a lot of physical percentage damage. 4 points into Rending because our our Shadow Cascade will actually deal bleeding damage. And of course 3 points into Rapid Expanse. Need a little bit of area so we can actually hit things for the Shadow Flourish, obviously, right? Then Leverage Momentum. Shadow Cascade deals more damage per 1% of increased melee attack speed we have. We have a lot of, that's 150% more damage for our bleeds dealt by Shadow Cascade. 1 point into Battle Trance, and then I don't think that actually works for us because we're proccing it, right? Oh no, that does work. Okay, interesting. Oh, I don't actually, let me see here. I'm sorry. Let's do some testing on video, shall we? Does that actually work? No, it does not. So this, you have to actually use Shadow Cascade to get this. That's what I was assuming. And of course, 30% more damage. This will affect our bleeds because it doesn't say hits. And of course, flow state as well, even more as well. So I believe if we hit something, we can deal pretty decent bleeds. Like, it's not like the best thing in the world. We're mainly using it for this buff for Shadow Flourish. But that's about it on Shadow Cascade. Smoke Bomb, we're using it for the usual Moonlight Bomb setup with the Silver Shrouds. 1 point travel into Generosity, 1 point travel into Enfeeblement, 1 point into Moonlight Bomb for the Silver Shroud stacks. You only need 1 because the way Silver Shrouds work is when you get a Silver Shroud on use, and you dodge to the next attack always. So, you know, obviously, and you gain ward depending on how many Silver Shrouds you have. You don't keep consuming them. You consume them all at once. So you only need 1 point in this node to make it effective. Then, of course, 1 point into Shrouded in Darkness, 4 points into Rapid Concealment. So we get some, obviously, we get some dodge chance here as well. I'm going to need obviously the build isn't that refined yet, so that's not that much dodge. 2 points into Impending Gloom, 20% radius and growth speed, 5 points in duration because duration's always strong, 1 point into Smoke Blades, then 4 points into Umbral Assault. The whole reason we're having points into Umbral Assault is so that our Shadow Cascade, when we proc it, will proc multiple Shadow Cascades, gives us a way of dealing damage at range for those pesky frost worms. And of course, we have shurikens. We're mainly proccing it off of our shift, so we get 5 shurikens. So we go down here, 3 points into Alicerity, 1 point into Thin Shurikens, then 1 point into Blade Shield so that they cast around us. Then of course, where is it? Of course, you take 4 points into Duration so that they stay up longer, 3 points into 30% increased armor per shuriken, so it's 5 shurikens, so we get 150% increased armor because of the way shift works. It only shoots out 5 shurikens. And of course, 4 points into Ethereal Blades because we want that pierce chance, because if you did not know, if you don't have the 100% pierce chance, they will hit a target and then stop, and they won't hit anything else afterwards. They'll be consumed without this pierce chance, but with it, they will stay up for the entire duration, so you get the armor percentage for the entire duration. And of course, we have 1 point into Fan of Blades. That's my mistake. I would take out both points into these and then put it into Weighted Projectiles, because I realized that you only get like 5 shurikens anyway, so this actually doesn't do anything. So I'd put it all into Weighted Projectiles. Our shurikens themselves actually do a lot of bleed, so having the, where is it? Having the Fizz Pen would be really strong. That's pretty much it for skills. Let's talk about the skill tree here. So we have in the Rogue base tree, we have 8 points into Swift Assassin for attack speed. Mainly, that's the main reason why. We have 1 point into Twin Blade here for dual wielding, right? 5 points into Lethal Cadence because every third attack, this will affect your bleeds as well. Obviously, you'd want to max this out later on when you have more points. If you're a higher level than me, 5 points into sapping strikes. You get, obviously health and mana. I could say you could probably change this to something else, probably lethal cadence instead of this. I would suggest doing so after obviously you're done leveling. 5 points in disembowel. This is one of the only reasons why this build works, because every third not channeling, melee, throwing, or bow attack also inflicts 5 stacks of bleed. Very strong. Very, very, very strong. And of course, those bleeds get 200% increased damage because these are on the same trigger, if that makes sense, as you can tell down here, right? For the little thing down here, the lethal cadence, right? They're on the same thing, so every single time you'll get it, you'll get 200% increased damage. Very, very strong, because obviously Flurry has that dots apply at a 40% less ailment chance, right? So you won't get as many. So this kind of like bridges the gap between those two, so you deal a lot more damage than normal. Then of course here we have 5 points to Cloak of Shadow, so you can get up to Blood Serpent's Blades. We have 2 swords, so we get 100% bleed chance from this, which is global for everything, including our obviously our shurikens. Of course, 1 point to Shroud of Dusk. I would suggest maxing this out too for the HP once you get to max level. 5 points into Veil of Night for Dust Shroud chance. I would heavily suggest getting Dust Shroud chance on your chest as well, so that you can get more Dust Shrouds than this, because it's mainly where all of your dodge is coming from, right? Then of course 1 point into Scarlet Stream. You'll probably end up maxing this out. I don't think it's worth it though, in my opinion. 5 points into Crimson Shrouds, so we get the Crimson Shrouds, so we get the 150% bleed chance from all these. 8 points into Flash of Steel for the increased damage while dual wielding and the increased attack speed. Increased attack speed is always good for this build. 10 points into Weapons of Choice, so we get the bleed chance with an axe, and the glancing blow chance with 2 swords. This allows us to cap our glancing blow a lot easier once we grab the rest of these, these nodes as well, because glancing blow is a very strong mechanic for us because it gives us more DR than we normally would have. Obviously later on, if you could get enough Dust Shroud chance, you could probably go for an axe and a sword for more bleed chance, but it doesn't really matter overall because I died. I would suggest putting all points into a Suvan's Pact as well, so you can increase damage while at full health. So one thing, I would not suggest going Perfection, mainly because without the dodge right now, we can't really obviously keep our perfection stacks up. So I would dump the perfection mechanic, which means that we don't necessarily need the armor from the shurikens, because that's where most of our base armor would come from. So I would suggest trying to mess around with that and see what's better. You obviously want 8 points into Death's Door, very strong. That's pretty much it for the shadow, for the Blade Dancer tree. The rest of your points should go towards HP, dodge, HP on glancing blow, stuff like that. Kind of like my crit flurry guide, except, obviously for bleed instead. I believe this is better than crit flurry in my opinion, so I would suggest switching over to this one if you've already been playing the crit flurry. With that being said, all right, now let's go over gearing here. So for idols, you 100% want the fizz damage over time idols. Gives you a significant amount of your percentage damage, very strong. Pretty much anything else you can get as well, right? But mainly the percentage damage. For your weapons, I would suggest 2 swords with increased melee damage, fizz percentage, health on hit, and then bleed chance on hit. And then one of them, you obviously want some frailty on hit as well, probably. There will be a Tunk Labs in the description as well, which will be the finished gear planner, obviously. But right now I'm just showcasing what I had. Obviously I had Res, Bleeding Heart. Bleeding Heart is almost necessary for the build because it's the only way to leech off of your bleeds. So I'd heavily suggest gambling for a Bleeding Heart. It's not that hard. It'll be like 100,000 gold. It's actually pretty cheap. Like I said, just more dodge and res cap, dodge and res cap. This pair of boots is pretty good. I was pretty proud of this pair of boots. And of course, res resistance just everywhere, right? It was SSF hardcore, so obviously don't expect much from the gear here. But the finished gear planner will be down in the description here. So let's talk about that, shall we? Just one moment here. All right. So here's the finished gear planner. So we're going to talk about this real quick. So for the helm, there's nothing special, just HP. Obviously, the bleeding heart. This is what you should want on your weapons. Obviously, you want the frailty on hit as well. Uh, so for your chest, you want the chance to bleed per equipped sword, health, vitality. You want obviously just resistance everywhere else, dodge percentage on your belt as well as flat dodge. That's pretty much it. Just pretty much just resistance and vitality. You want to be up to a very large amount of HP so that you can tank large hits. For your blessings, you obviously want the leech rate here from Rae. The leech rate would probably be the best thing for you to take advantage of take advantage of your bleeding heart. For Lagan, you probably want chill on hit. That would probably be your best one for that one. And for obviously for Reign of Dragons, you're probably going to want, where is it? Either chance to bleed on hit, or you're probably going to want as well critical strike avoidance. Either one is probably acceptable, so that you can sacrifice one of these HP suffixes for obviously crit strike avoidance to cap it out. That being said, this will be in the description so that you guys aren't completely screwed over for trying to follow the build. That being said, thank you all for watching and have a wonderful rest of your evening, and bye.